Happy Sunday, everyone, and welcome to Unity of Kern County on this 18th day of September 2022. I'm Reverend Chuck, and today we're going to look at Jesus' statement to the people about loving your neighbor as yourself. Now, the materials that I share with you each Sunday are based upon the spiritual principles and teachings of Jesus, as well as Unity Worldwide Ministries and my 29 years as an ordained Unity minister. And as we do each Sunday, we honor that presence of God as we best understand that presence by praying in the presence, a prayer by Charles Fillmore. I am now in the presence of pure being and immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. I acknowledge your presence and power, O blessed Spirit. In your divine wisdom, now erase my mortal limitations, and from your pure substance of love, bring into manifestation my world according to your perfect law. And so it is. Well, you know, the writers of the Synoptic Gospels of Matthew and Mark and Luke all have Jesus speaking to the people about the importance of not only loving God, but also loving your neighbor as yourself. In fact, he even went on to say that we must love our enemies as well. And of course, those were the greatest commandments, he said. I like how author G.K. Chesterton sums up Jesus' instructions for us in today's world. He writes, and I quote, "The Bible tells us to love our neighbors and also to love our enemies, probably because they are generally the same people." Yeah, we can laugh at that. But how many individuals have family members that are really, really difficult? So, in today's world and with social media, these individuals have become targeted and named as Karens. I wonder what Jesus would have to say after witnessing one of their outbursts today. Well, let's face it, there have always been and always will be difficult people in our lives. Jesus, I'm sure, had his to deal with. Probably that's why he stressed the importance of loving your neighbor as yourself and doing unto others as you would have others do unto you. Just a few days ago, a friend of mine posted a statement on Facebook, and his name is Ray Wallace, and I'm sure Jesus would have used it if he were here with us today. It states, and I quote, "When you replace 'why is this happening to me' with 'what is this trying to teach me?' everything shifts." This sure gives us time to pause and cause us to think about what it means for our sense of well-being, to shift our thinking, especially when we're dealing with difficult people. Ray's post reminded me of a book that I read many years ago by Dr. Mark Rosen. It's entitled, "Thank You for Being Such a Pain, Spiritual Guidance for Dealing with Difficult People." Well, that quote from Ray sure spoke volumes in light of what Dr. Rosen teaches in his book. In the introduction, Dr. Rosen writes, and I quote, "Thank you for being such a pain" is about the difficulties we experience in everyday relationships and the deeper spiritual meanings that underlie them. This book is based upon 4 premises. Number 1, that life's seemingly random encounters are not so random at all. Number 2, that the pain and frustration and suffering we experience with certain people are just as important to our personal and spiritual growth as love and joy. Adversity is our teacher. pushing past our resistance and teaching us what we would fail to otherwise learn. 3. The difficult relationships can and should be healed. And 4. That healing requires attentiveness to the spiritual lessons that life presents us. When we do the inner work, he writes, we are here to do, our outer relationships and circumstances become transformed. So like Ray said, in that there used that little quote, when we turn it into what do I need to learn from this? What is this to teach me? We find our answers. Dr. Rosen continues with this little tidbit that mirrors the quote that Ray shared with us. People the world over are looking for a solution to getting the other person to stop annoying them. They believe that the best responses include, of course, fighting back, retaliation, enduring the difficulties, walking away, or just giving up. The true resolution comes only when you finally learn what the other person is trying to teach you. See, we're all students. We're all teachers, and we're all students in this universe and in this life that we live. In his book, Dr. Rosen covers 7 issues that confront us when it comes to dealing and learning from the difficult people in our lives. And they are, number 1, difficult people. There's no escaping them. Number 2, what makes somebody difficult? 3, why do some people just drive us crazy? 4, ways of seeing others. 5, why do relationships have difficulties? 6, everyone is difficult to somebody. And 7, a spiritual perspective of it all. So let's look at number 1. Difficult people. There's no escaping them. That's for sure. Difficult people bedevil us, he writes. They zap our energy and distract us, causing us minor annoyance and major distress. We protest, we complain, and we struggle to cope, sometimes successfully, often uselessly. People have been making other people miserable for thousands of years. Every time we deal with a difficult person, we face one of the dilemmas of just being human. Because we all are in the human condition, and the human condition is made up of many, many, many facets of living. The key to remember here, he says, is when you're struggling with a difficult person, know that you're not alone. There are many people who face what you may be facing. So share your concerns with a support group or a trusted counselor. Know also that you will continue to face difficult people wherever you go. There is no escaping them. Looking at issue number 2. What makes some people difficult? Well, he starts off by saying that there's this newspaper story that was told of a contest that they wanted the readers to get themselves involved with. And the contest was for the worst boss ever. The winner was a man who sent his secretary to the bar up the street at the close of work each day to scout for women he could hit on. Needless to say, Dr. Rosen gives us a list of some other red flag indicators. Maybe you've even dealt with these from time to time with one or more people. He writes, number 1, difficult people come in all forms. Bullies use their power to intimidate. Backstabbers are pleasant in person, but the minute you turn your back, Look out. 2, the know-it-alls. They're always right. I've known a few of those too. 3, hotheads. Explode at the very drop of a hat. They're like volcanoes. You never know when they're going to erupt. And when they do, they just spew the stuff all over. 4, difficult person can be a stranger, a neighbor, a teacher, someone at work, a relative, a spouse, and yes, a member of the clergy. That brought to mind a situation when I first got here in 1993 to begin my ministry at Unity of Bakersfield. And I had several ladies who were in counseling, and they came up and they said to me that I reminded them of the difficult person in their lives. So I'm going, I don't even know you. But apparently, mannerisms, okay, speech, a number of things can trigger a sense of distortion within the psyche of an individual, and they do this transference, and they see you as that difficult person. But what they were able to do, even though they saw that in me, they were able to work at getting through that. Dr. Rosen goes on to say, but no matter how different each circumstance may seem, all of them have one thing in common. Each time we have an encounter with a difficult person, we have an uncomfortable emotional reaction. The key to the question is what makes someone difficult is that we really don't know. But this much is certain. No matter who it is, no matter what is being done to us, a difficult person is someone who causes us to feel things we'd rather not be feeling. As I said earlier, I counseled many people, and one of the issues was I could have gone all day without feeling that feeling, because they would turn around and turn it in on themselves with a negative, guilt-ridden response. Why did this happen to me, and what did I do to cause it? Instead, I would work with them to stay calm and ask, what can I learn from this situation, experience, or circumstance that will help me move forward with a positive attitude about myself? Well, join me next week when I cover issues 3 through 7. If you have questions at any time, please feel free to contact me on Facebook Messenger or my email at revchuckunity@yahoo.com. And of course, I wish to thank all of you who continue to follow me on YouTube, Unity of Kern County, and also the page on Facebook, Unity of Kern County. So until next week, when we continue with part 2 of Loving Your Neighbor, be good to yourself and others. God bless you, dear friends.